Alrighty. Got a quick little window. Let's see how it goes. I am inspired to try a few things. Like the brush up on my Rocketeer stuff. I just find the sort of character very cool. It may be a bit in the past for some, but to me, this film is evergreen. And I was also a fan of the comic book. To what extent that was easy enough. There's apparently, I could be wrong, but the Rocketeer story that I recall, like, sort of ended on a weird cliffhanger in the comic book, and then I think I only recently found out that there was a continuation of the story that I was completely unaware of. But anyway, this is kind of a cool pose. Let's just do it. Let's be inspired for a second. Now this is there's a lot of twisting and posing going on here. And it doesn't matter, like, the line of action isn't always going to be like accurate or run straight through a limb. Something that feels like it captures the pose and inspires us is actually good enough. And that might be enough, you know? We don't need a perfect start, just a start. For me, I always, especially if I'm using like photo or picture references, I always feel like I'm making mistakes by not getting perfect adherence to the reference. And that's not really the best way to go about it. Why force yourself to become a human printer? Not that being a human printer isn't enough of a challenge on its own, but I don't think you learn that much by rote copying, yes? The Rocketeer, indeed. I believe I chatted a little bit about this in Discord. The Rocketeer, to me, is an okay story, wrapped in a compelling aesthetic that the illustrator Dave Stevens famously captured. And that guy is kind of like the stuff of comic book legend. Much to be inspired by in his story, and he was tragically taken way too early. Died of something, some sort of interesting flavor of leukemia, or interestingly, I remember reading up about this a little bit, and if I'm not mistaken, he died of a cancer that was actually cured a few years later. And such an ironic twist, but at the time it was more or less a death sentence for him. This was just, early 90s, I believe, or late 90s. Took the poor guy out, and he never had any kids. But he was like me. He was like devilishly handsome and ridiculously artistically overpowered. Living the dream. He, again, some of this stuff might be more legend, and my retellings are not going to be accurate, but if I recall, he sort of rediscovered Betty Page as she was more or less convalescing, and sort of reinvigorated that era and aesthetic almost single-handedly via his personal efforts and sort of leveraging his small impact in the comic book media. Sort of like in this sort of like, yo, if you care about comics, you should care about aging pinup models too. And give a hoot, That is unfortunate. Yeah, for modeling, especially that sort of like art modeling and stuff like that. Not enough can be said about the gift and sacrifice that art models give. For they provide essentially for a very small remittance. Generally, it's not you wouldn't call it a well-paid job, and of course it's not like art modeling is a anything like OnlyFans or anything like that. These days we know better than to compare art modeling to sex work, but there are a lot of people who frankly with dubious intent still prefer to conflate the two, and that never should have been an issue, but it was. So here's a rare instance of me using the eraser tool, carve out a little bit of negative space there into that leg, and I'm getting too precious with this pose. Shouldn't be, but I am. But I wonder if it isn't better for me to just start a few kind of poses, you know what I mean? And then just finish them later. Like, here's something cool. Let's see here, 07/17, 2026. Rocketeer. And Dave Stevens, if I recall, he even worked as a storyboard artist and stuff. Find that to be pretty darn cool. And if I recall, he lent some of those storyboarding skills to, I believe, sometime on Raiders of the Lost Ark. I could be really wrong about that stuff, but he I think it was he and George Lucas seemed to have like an affinity. They like had a bond, or was it Steven Spielberg? They had an affinity for the old that old aesthetic, right? That like period. Here I am drawing the head. Do not over tighten. Get the whole body in there. Zoom out a little bit. Look at that cool costume. Couldn't tell you what kind of jacket that is. I'm sure it has a name, but to me it's the Rocketeer jacket, you know. Helmet design is just so cool. And the Rocketeer movie has great music. I'm sure you've seen it, Sextra. You did when you were like 6? You know, if you were 6, you might not recall. It's got a very young Jennifer Connelly in it. That is as the main love interest. It's wonderfully acted. It's got a lot. It's got everything. It's got Nazis. It's got mystery. It's got sci-fi. Pretty sure Alan Arkin is in it. The lead actor Billy Campbell is the nephew, if I recall, of Bruce Campbell, the wonderfully indulgent, sort of like a B movie actor, but he is great in everything too. And Billy Campbell is excellent in this role as Cliff Secord. I don't really remember what happens, but I do remember thinking it was cool. One of the best, some of the best music is from that film. And I'm pretty confident you'll recognize the tune if you hear it. Save. Let's see if we have time for one more. We really don't, but let's do one more anyway. It's kind of cool. This looks like a toy. What's cool about what we do here is we get to, come on, Rocketeer. Kind of trying to find like a still of the movie. This was awesome. I remember this one. John Farnham. Cool is that? Sextra, I know I mentioned on the Discord I'd been a little down in the dumps this week. Work was not busy, and it's sort of hard for me to like motivate because I'm motivated by procrastination. So if like me not having like a big job that needs my attention sort of means I can't even do the small things because I can only do the small things as a distraction to the big things, right? But if there aren't any big things going on, I don't even have the procrastination element to make me do the small things. Look at this big swoop right here. How awesome is that? Looks like he's about to throw a baseball. But this week, I was sort of given, I didn't talk about this on the Discord, but I was given a little bit of a lifeline from a friend who needed my help. He had this sort of insurmountable goal of getting a bar built, like an outdoor bar built in his backyard in order for set up for a big party. And this would be very ambitious for just normal people. And he was well behind on things, but he had a few tricks up his sleeve. He could call in a few friends, and he actually knows how to build bars like professionally, basically. So, but he needed a hand on a few things, like lifting giant beams of wood to get them cut and stuff like that expeditiously. And this was just the distraction that I needed to, you know, basically occupy myself physically. And I was able to put my time to good use this week doing, interestingly, though they were not artistic things, they were still creative adjacent for sure. And I really enjoyed that time and camaraderie, and it got done in time. Last night he had a big party at his house. There were drinks. I had many of them. They were well earned after day. I personally probably put in 8 hours just on that job site this week, doing stuff that I don't normally do, like pick up pieces of wood and feed them into a blade, etc. Getting very dirty, getting sawdust in all my eyes and stuff like that. And lots of drinks. And it was very well earned, and it was a lot of fun afterwards, and a lot of people came. They're like, this is new, this is cool, you know, when did this happen? We were like, we did it this week, because we're amazing. It was very gratifying to see people enjoying it after we had worked so hard, so that was cool. It very much helped me sort of learn a few things in terms of, not learn things I didn't know, but sort of demonstrating sort of like, no matter what you're doing, a lot of the things are the same, you know? You got to get your base down. Once that's in, things can snap into it well, but you do want the base to be right. Otherwise, you're going to pay the price later. Just because the base isn't the pretty part doesn't mean you get to skip. It doesn't mean that when you're in a rush, you should skip past the base and just go to the pretty part. That never works, right? Okay, so we definitely have a few good starts here. And I may adjust these, rearrange them on the page so that we can see them. Maybe this could be something we work on for a few days. That would be a smart and intelligent thing to do, right? Is have a sense of structure or like intent with what I'm doing with all this stuff. But that probably won't work out, not in the long term. Not as my life just keeps getting interrupted with things. But I think there's a good place to sort of leave it be. So I want to say thank you everybody for popping in. We've got our limited time, and I believe it is up, but I think we put it to good use today. So I'll catch you next time. Adios.